Good morning. Hello, crafty friends, and happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? Did you have a good weekend? We had an amazing weekend. As you might remember, last week I talked about how over the weekend we were celebrating our Stamp Joy event in person in Des Moines. We had 500 of our customers join us for an amazing weekend, and I have been riding on a high since then, but also very sleepy. So you guys, you know how to party, and we had a lot of fun together. So if you were there, raise your hand in the comments. I do hope you had a wonderful time, learned a lot, connected with new friends, made new friends, connected with old friends, and really got to experience the joy of card making together as a group. I loved it. So I'm going to say good morning to a few people, and then we're going to talk about our latest release because, you know, it's Tuesday, and that's what we do on Tuesdays. So hello, Linda in Colorado. Hi, Beth. Susan's here. Good morning, Rachel. Hopes to join Stamp Joy one day soon. We would love to have you next year. We did announce our dates for next year as October 8th through the 10th. So mark that down on your calendar and save that date. Hi, Deneen. Good morning, Lee. Georgina is here. You told your husband your goal is Stamp Joy. That's awesome. I love it. Well, there were a lot of husbands who tagged along, and they were the drivers and the bag holders and all of those things this event. Hi, Amrita. So good to see you. It was fun to see you at Stamp Joy and get to connect again and take pictures together. Michelle, you were there. Yes, Amrita says, hello, tall friend. Every time we're together, we get our tallest and shortest attendee photos together. I'm not sure. You and Taryn, you are kind of battling for that award. So, hi, Mary. Good morning. Lauren is here. You loved Stamp Joy this year. Well, guess what? It's not over yet because we are going to get ready to do staycation. For those of you that signed up for the virtual portion of our Stamp Joy event, you will be taking the Timeless Techniques class with Susan and I coming up in November, and we are really excited about that. So, yeah, it's not over yet. Hi, Megan and Angel. All right. Angel says she's going next year. And Megan, it was wonderful to see you again. Thank you always for your sweet little gifts that you give out too. I love mine. All right. Let's get to talking about today's release. This release is all about autumn because the weather has officially turned. I almost wore a sweater today, but these lights that we have here in our studio, they get a little warm. So I decided not quite ready for sweaters. We might have to hit some white fluffy snow before I start putting sweaters on. But it is officially cooler outside, and we're seeing a lot of that fall decor out with pumpkins and leaves and, of course, Halloween. But today it's all about that fall theme. So I'm going to show you first what our promotion is, and then today we're going to do it a little differently. We're going to go through and show you the products that we're releasing along with lots of samples from our design team. If you did catch our product reveal video over the weekend, then you know we didn't have any samples to share with you at that time. So hopefully you're tuning in to get even more inspiration from our design team. We recorded that video early since we had a Stamp Joy busy week with that and didn't get a chance to share the samples with you until today. So let's talk about that promotion first. So free with purchases of $50 or more in the All About Autumn category will get you the Sending Gratitude Kit for free. This includes 6 mini slim envelopes in pumpkin, toffee, and sweet basil, and then that fun sticker sheet that you see there that you can use as envelope seals, or you can use it on your cards or the inside of your cards. Really cute stickers. So we hope that encourages you to send some gratitude this holiday season. Okay, let's get to looking at the new fall goodies. So we have The release is called All About Autumn, and this particular stamp and coordinating die set is called All Around Autumn. It features some beautiful solid colored, you can stamp them in colors, beautiful solid leaves. They have a little bit of distressing in them, so when you get these in your own hands, just know that those little speckles within the solid imagery, they are intentional, and they give a really fun, almost splattered effect when you stamp them onto your cardstock. So all around autumn with the coordinating dies, you also get the dies that cut out those sentiments. And this is what I'm going to be using when we get crafty together. I thought this was a perfect set to bring back our happy half sheets idea. And so I created these 5 mini slim cards with one of our happy half sheets panels, and we are going to be doing that together today. I stamped that whole piece with different stamps from that All Around Autumn set, and then cut it apart based on our template that's part of Happy Half Sheets, and then created these 5 cards. So that will be perfect. Then let's show you a couple more samples. This was another one that I made almost accidentally, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. But really what I was trying to accomplish with this card was just stamping some of the elements so that I could die cut them. And it ended up, as I was stamping and then rotating my cardstock, I ended up with a really fun pattern, and I just popped a sentiment in the middle. So this was one of those oops accident cards, but I do love how it turned out. And then we have some more All Around Autumn cards. Heather created these beautiful cards here. We have a wreath that she made using those die cut leaf elements. And then this one, another patterned layout, popped up those leaves on the background. Super cute. And of course I love that over Toffee with that knock on wood background stamp for the kind of wood grain texture in the background. Then we have an unexpected color combination, another mini slim layout set from Jill Hawkins, and this one uses another happy half sheet. So she incorporated our Crossroads cutting plate in here so you can see that fun texture in the white background, and that really makes the white on white pop when you have one that's textured and then your card base that's plain. So really fun colors here with the teals and more unexpected than your traditional fall color combos. And then one last set of cards using the All Around Autumn, and these are from Lori Craig. Look at these. I love that Tiki Mule color, how she incorporated that. She's got her color card here that she stamped with the cute little acorns. I think that's adorable. And then you can see the happy half sheets that she created using the imagery and then cut apart to make into 3 different layouts. And then let's talk about kind of our other, this release really features kind of 2 little mini collections. And with this one, you will find the layering stencil. This layering stencil is called Harvest Hues, and it creates these 4 pieces of artwork on one 6x6 stencil. So you've got sunflowers and oak leaves and pumpkins and maple leaves. These are designed in an arch shape, so they can be cut out with our Arch Nouveau dies, additional Arch Nouveau or the original. And you can just cut those out and place them on your cards or calendars. I've got a little bit of each to show you for inspiration today. And then this, we have our super popular Sundry Sentiments. It has been our most popular font work this year, and we have the original Sundry Sentiments and Sundry Sentiments Holiday, and now you can get Sundry Sentiments Fall. So there's Happy Thanksgiving, Autumn Blessings, Grateful for You, Give Thanks, along with several others, and then there's a coordinating die set for that as well. So we have those items, and then let's take a look at some samples. So we have this one from Heather, and she used some of our previously released die cuts on there from our Garden Variety Fall set You've got that Sundry Sentiments embossed with copper embossing powder. That's really pretty. And then also she used the coordinating foilet for that Harvest Hues stencil on the sunflower panel. Isn't that pretty? And then this one from Lori Craig turned out beautiful inside of all of these Arch products. So you have the Arch Nouveau, the additional Arch Nouveau, and then the Arch Stacklets, and the fairly new Petite Arch Stacklets. So all of those can be layered together to create this beautiful focal image. And then you've got the Sundry Sentiments, You Are a Blessing there at the bottom. And then I mentioned you can also create a calendar using our pre-printed arched calendar with this artwork from the Harvest Hues set. So Lori created these using the foilet and the stencil. So hopefully, oh no, I said Lori, I meant Jill. Then I saw the stitching and I was like, nope, that's Jill. You see that fun stitching along the edges of these arches in order to kind of adhere them to the calendar. I think that's super fun. All right, so there you have it, a very curated small release. Oh, there's one more product I almost forgot. I'm going to set these out here so you can see what our fall goodies include for you. And then a new foil color. We have fun foil now in copper. And take a look at this beautiful kind of brown tone. I just love this copper. The samples that I shared with you use the copper foil. I'm going to pull that back in here so you can see what that looks like when I get it to the light. Has a slight orangey tone, but more of a brown chocolate color to it. And we're going to be using it on the project I'm creating today. I have shared this technique before, how you can spray your panel with pixie spray and then press the foil over the top, and it grabs just little bits and flecks of that foil. And that's really fun when you're creating a happy half sheet to have this little bit of a shimmery foiled look in the background. So Deneen says, yay for the copper fun foil. Yes, I do love it. All right, so that's the entire release there for you. And we do have an I Want It All bundle. So if you want it all, you can click that and grab your I Want It All bundle, or you can certainly pick and choose which products you want to take. Okay, so let's get started. Happy half sheets. Raise your hand in the comments if you have never heard of happy half sheets before. So we introduced this concept, it's been probably over a year ago, and this came out of my desire to kind of reinvent the one sheet wonder. If you've heard of one sheet wonder, it's when you take a full sheet of 8.5 by 11 and you stamp it with completely with different stamps, kind of creating your own patterned paper. And then you have different templates that you use to cut those pieces apart and create them into layouts, either scrapbooking layouts or, in our case, card making layouts. So when I revisited that technique, I felt like a full sheet was a lot. And so what I wanted to be able to do was create a half sheet. So we renamed the technique Happy Half Sheets. And if you want to do this, you would just need a half sheet of cardstock. I'm going to be using our sugar cube, and I am going to tack it down onto the glass board here before we really get started. So 5.5 by 8.5. And then what we have for you are these laminated reference cards. We have 3 different volumes of Happy Half Sheets, and on one side it shows you both a color combination as well as a set of layouts that you can get by cutting the pieces exactly as shown on the back of the laminated panel. So all of the measurements are here. We're actually going to cut this apart today after we stamp it. And then that is what I use to create those 5 mini slim cards that I showed you early on. So we do have some really fun stamp sets to use this with. This one that you see in these samples is called Make It Merry. And it looks like we have some new Happy Half Sheet people out there.
Welcome!
I know, so I'm excited to show you. This is a great technique for being able to mass produce cards easily. And just to give you a reminder, these are the cards that we're going to end up with. And you can add more detail to the projects. You can see on the layout sheet here, they're really just very simple. It's the patterned piece adhered to a card base with a sentiment on it. But you can see on my projects, I added little gold drops. I stamped the background, added some colored paper to match my stamping, and really zhuzhed it up with things like burlap twine and little embellishments. So you can also do that. Okay, let's get started then. When I'm doing a Happy Half Sheet, I typically try to start with the largest image in the set. So in this case with All Around Autumn, I'm going to start with the largest leaf here, the oak leaf, and we'll take that off of the panel. The other technique we're going to be talking about today is kind of dual colored stamping. So I'm actually going to be stamping these or inking this stamp with two different colors of ink. I'll be using sweet potato pie for the main image and then pumpkin around the edges. And by inking those in two different colors, you're going to get this sort of dual colored, a little bit more dimension to your stamped image. So we're going to start with the largest piece here, and I'm going to ink it with sweet potato pie. And then I'm going to take my pumpkin ink and just tap it around the edges. And I'll hold this up into the camera so you can see what that looks like. And you see how I have that darker ink around the edges? And then we're just going to go down to the paper. We'll start up in that corner, and then we'll just keep right on going here. It does take a little bit longer to do this technique with two different colors of ink. And I know Susan always tells us only one ink pad open, but I think I'm going to break the rules today just so I don't have to open and close the ink pads each time I want to stamp one of these down. So we're going to travel this around, kind of varying the arrangement of the oak leaf and filling in the whole background. One of the important things when you're doing Happy Half Sheets is to make sure that you're stamping some of your imagery off of the page. If you're keeping everything contained fully on the page, it tends to look a little, your eye just doesn't travel to the edges as well. And then your pattern looks a little trapped, if that makes sense. And you can kind of turn these as you go. Yes! Rock and roll stamping, bringing back another oldie but a goodie technique. So this was and kind of probably still is called rock and roll. And I'm doing it sort of the opposite direction by placing my stamp down and tapping the ink pad on top of it. But back in the day, we called it rock and roll because we would pick up the ink pad or pick up the stamp and kind of roll the edges of the image in the ink. So you can do it both ways. You can rock and roll your stamp, or you can do it where you can see a little bit better exactly where you've placed the ink by keeping the stamp laying down on the surface. And I know that stamping with an acrylic block is not something that we do a lot these days because we have our wonderful Misties, but this particular technique really does work better with an acrylic block. And by better, I just mean probably faster. You would have to be moving your stamp around on your Misty and placing it and making sure it's positioned where you want it, where here you can sort of hover and see if you like that positioning before you press the stamp into the paper. Just a couple of tips as you're working with the stamp itself. because you're holding this block, one of my biggest tips for stamping with a block, you don't want to let go of the block ever. So hold this, and it's a quick down, up. So down, press, up, just like that. We're not setting it down and pressing on it with our hands. That's not going to get you very good results and will make you frustrated. So just a quick down, up. And of course, our rubber stamps are so such a high quality that you're going to get a beautiful impression every time you do this. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and put my lids back on of the pumpkin and the sweet potato pie. And we're going to move to the next largest stamp in the set. I work from largest to smallest because as you go, your space shrinks, that your white space that you want to be stamping, it shrinks. So as you get smaller with your imagery, you can kind of fit those little pieces in among the bigger ones. So this next one is going to be Jujube, our newest color. And we'll pop these maple leaves all around this background. And this time I am just stamping the one color, but you can certainly, if you wanted to create some more dimension along the edges on this one, you could do that with mulled wine. Okay. Feel good about that. Now we're going to do this long one. So I don't know exactly what kind of leaf I would call this, but we're going to do this in two colors again, Dijon and honey. So I'm going to start with my honey up here, my Dijon down here, and we'll ink up the full stamp in Dijon and then take the honey ink pad and kind of tap it around the edges to give us more dimension. And as I go, I want to make sure that my imagery is kind of tucked in among what I've already stamped. So as you continue, it gets a little bit tougher to just kind of place those pieces. But I like the hover method. So I usually hover over the spot and see how I like its positioning, and then a quick down, up. I think on this particular set, I had just two images that I did in two different colors. So the orange leaf and the yellow leaf are done in two colors, and the rest of the things I'm going to stamp are just single color, which makes it go a little bit faster as well. Let's go over here with this one. The other thing I like to tell everyone is, as you are doing this, if you find any spots or you see any spots that are just sticking out to you, like, oh, I really messed up in that area, 9 times out of 10, you are not going to see that spot once you finish and you get it all cut apart, splattered, foiled. So don't stop. That's my recommendation. Don't quit because you maybe, touched two of the leaves together that you didn't want to touch. It's all going to turn out just fine. All right, I think I'm going to do two more of these, and then we'll see what we can do for, let's go up here. Actually, let's just do the one. I think I feel good about that. I want to leave some space for my my green leaf. Let me pull the comments up on my screen to make sure nobody's got any questions here. So sweet basil is going to be the color for the kind of pointed leaf. Oh no, I didn't use the pointed leaf. Never mind. I'm going to use the smaller one. And that's better because this one will fit in more spots. The other thing that you can do is you're always welcome to come back and add more. So if you have a big open white space and you need another yellow leaf in there, you can come back and do another yellow leaf. Making sure we kind of have something in all of those open spots around the edges. Also, some people's happy half sheet technique looks a little more spread out. So if you go back to remembering the samples that Lori created, so her happy half sheet is really spread out, and I'm showing you how to really tuck the images together. And both looks are really nice. So you can try both ways. Okay, I think we're going to come down here with another green. And then we're going to move on to our little acorn. And I'm going to do that in Toffee. Okay, here's my acorn. Also, as you are creating with the happy half sheet, I kind of try to think about which color. Typically it's my darkest color that I don't want to overwhelm my pattern too much. So my darkest color for this piece is going to be Mocha. And that's why I did not stamp my acorns in Mocha. I thought it would be too bold and wasn't wanting that. So there's a little set of 3 little dots that I'm going to do in Mocha that's going to add some of that darker colored dimension without being overwhelming to the pattern. Okay. All right, so this is the little image now that we're going to do in Mocha. We're getting down there. You can see we don't have a lot of white space left, so I'll grab that ink pad and we'll pop a few of these in and then continue with finishing this by splattering it and foiling it. Rotating this around so they're not all stamped in the same direction is important. Which is a lot easier to do with the acrylic block than it is with the MISTI. This is the part where I start to step back, kind of look at the pattern, see if there are little areas I might have missed or somewhere that needs a little pop of that dark color. Okay. I think we did it. Let me hold this up and show you where we're at. So can you fill in more? Probably. There's another tiny stamp in this set, these 3 little berries that you could stamp in some of these open white spaces, but I feel pretty good about this, so I'm gonna leave it where it's at. Let me clean up my glass board here, and then we are gonna get out the splatter box and splatter the background. And then I'm gonna show you, once that dries, I'll show you the foiling technique using pixie spray to foil the background. And then after that, we'll cut it apart and make a few finished cards together. Okay, splatter, splatter. So I'm gonna grab my splatter box here, which I have inside my mini glass board, my eyedropper bottle with some water in it, and a number 4 brush. And then I'll be using the liquid watercolor in chocolate truffle. So I'm going to put just a little bit of that out on the mini glass board. Actually, you don't need to dilute our liquid watercolor when you're using it as splatter. So I won't be using the dropper bottle right now, but I'm going to pick up some of that medium with my paintbrush. We did a little bit of splattering at Stamp Joy this past weekend, and one of the tips I always give is to do your first couple of taps off to the side of your paper. So those first, kind of bigger drops of the splatter medium, they come off before you move over to your paper. And kind of I love that splatter is really organic looking and not perfect. And with this particular one, I like to add a lot of splatter because it kind of draws the pattern together, falls in those white spaces, so you're not ending up with a bunch of white space across your background. All right. I'll hold this up and show you guys what that looks like with those splatters across it. We filled in even a little bit more, some fine splatter in those open white areas and some bigger dots as well. I'm going to let that dry now, and while we're letting that dry, I'm going to stamp some additional leaves so that we can die cut them and use them on our layouts. So you can see on several of these, I die cut additional, not that one, this one. I die cut additional leaves and kind of popped them in and around the sentiments. These are the 2 cards I'm going to be finishing today. So let's go ahead and stamp some of those. And this is going to give me an opportunity to talk about that happy accident that I showed you at the beginning, where I created a whole card where I really didn't mean to. So this panel was actually meant to be, I was trying to just stamp several leaves so that I could die cut them. But then about 2 or 3 leaves in, I realized this is looking like a really fun pattern. So I'm going to show you how you could achieve this, even though we're going to end up die cutting what's on here. I do need to grab, this is important that you make sure your stamp is clean before you set it down on your paper, or at least dry. I suppose it doesn't have to be clean, but can't have wet ink on it. So I'll do this one too. We're going to need that next. Okay, and we'll do the yellow one also. Got a little mousy here. Squeak, squeak. Okay, so what I'm going to do is start with the largest leaf. And when I started this, I was just like, oh, I'll plop it up here in the corner. And then I'll stamp that one.
I'm getting up close now.
Okay.
I'm taking my spot.
Am I getting questions that I need to respond to, or
no? But I want to see how you did this, because a lot of people were saying they're really excited about that accident, that happened.
Okay. So I have that stamp on my Misty lid, and I'm just going to stamp it down in that corner. And now here's where the magic happens. In order to just get 2 stamps out of this without having to move my stamp, I just rotated my paper and then I stamped it again. So we'll do that. And I used the dual colors just like we used earlier, the sweet potato pie and then the pumpkin. So there's how it all started. Now we can remove this stamp and let's go with the yellow one next. So I kind of threw the yellow one on there next, rotating it the opposite direction so that my stem is going the other way from the other one. And we'll pick that up with the lid, and I'm going to ink that with Dijon first and then with honey around the edges. And then we'll rotate our paper like that. And we'll do it again. Dijon first. So when you're doing that rock and roll technique, you want to start with the lighter color and then move to the darker one. So there's that. So then I just kind of kept going. I was like, you know what? Let's throw the maple leaf in there, see what happens. And we'll pick that up. We can take off this guy. And that one's going to be Jujube. So we'll ink that up. And then you guys got this down by now, right? We're going to rotate it and get the mirror of that on the opposite side, just like that. Now let's say we want to keep going, and let's put that little acorn in there, and we'll stamp that with Mocha. So there's our Mocha acorn on one side and Mocha acorn on the other side. And now that last leaf, I ended up putting in the little kind of triangular leaf. Placing that down in the bottom corner. And your layout might not be, perfect and the same every time. It could change a little bit depending on exactly where you place your stamp each time. But the great part about just rotating your paper is that it's equally distributed on both sides. So we've got our sweet basil in that corner, and rotate the paper and sweet basil in the other corner. There it is. Isn't that great? And I just saw that opening in the center. I was like, well, let's pop a sentiment up in there. I also did take those little berries, and I did not use my MISTI for this. I just popped them in around the background where I felt like it had some open space. And down the sides, I used one of our decorative border dies to add that kind of tweed etching down the sides of the panel. So really easy and simple to do, right? And one of those happy accidents that I'm glad happened. So I am going to die cut these now because we're going to use them on the cards that we're finishing. So I'll grab my die cut machine and my coordinating dies. Oops. And we'll tack down a few of these at a time. So let's do this one and this one and this one, this one, this one. Okay, we've got several that we can cut out at a time. Are you guys sad to see me cut into my perfectly stamped panel? I know. Okay. tacking these down with Scotch removable tape. I think that was one thing that several of our attendees learned about this weekend, being able to use it and get it in their hands. They were like, wow, I like this a lot better than what I'm using. So it is one of my oldest and most used supplies. Okay, so we'll run those through. And then I'm not going to bother cutting the rest of them out right now, but I can do that later. So this is everything we're going to need for the projects we're making. And I'll just pop those out. And set these guys aside. Okay, let's do our fun foiling technique now that this background is dry. So I am going to get out my splatter box again, just so that I can use it to spray this pixie spray onto the surface of the paper. So I'm going to bring this back in here. I'm going to shake this can really well. And then I'm going to hold this about, I would say about 6 inches from my panel. After I've shaken it, about 6 inches from my panel, and I'm just going to give it a nice squirt. There we go. And you can kind of play with that. You know, the more you squirt, the more foil is going to stick to your panel. But I like to keep it really kind of, I guess, more like a splatter across the whole thing rather than, you know, certain areas. So I try to hold the nozzle down and then kind of move it across the paper. So after this has gotten some tackiness to it, it only takes about 10 or 20 seconds. We are going to grab the copper foil, and you can do this, you know, by taking a whole piece and putting it over, but that seems like kind of a waste. So this is a great technique to use your scraps of foil on, or just use a smaller piece, because what you can do is after you've placed it down on your paper, you kind of press into the paper, and then that low tack adhesive picks up the foil. So I'm going to hold this up so you guys can see all of those flecks of foil. It is
fun.
Isn't that fun? It's kind of hard to see, but next to this area that I haven't done yet, you can see those foil flecks across. It's like splattering your paper with foil. But you can see that it doesn't use the whole foil sheet. So you can just continue to use this piece and kind of place it down over the rest of your panel. And you can start to see also, let me show you where, you know, some of my spraying might have gotten a little heavier. So once I've done that, I like to just kind of take it and tack it down here to pick up more of that foil. In areas that might not have gotten a lot. Beautiful.
We had a good question.
Yeah.
So, how do you get rid of that sticky residue from the pixie spray? Does it just dissipate?
Yeah, so one tip would be don't over pixie it, because if you get it very coated with the pixie spray, it is just going to stay kind of tacky. One thing you can do is lightly run the powder tool over the top of your design. And when you do that, it's going to take away the tackiness, but it also has a tendency to kind of dull a little bit of that foil shine. So come back in with your cloth, your cleaning cloth, if you have a buffing cloth where you get that powder residue off, and just do that. So this has been detacked, and you can still see the foil across it as well, hopefully. It's hard to capture on camera, but when you, I got a kind of a blotch down here so you can really see it there. But when you show these to someone in person, they're like, what is that speckle in the background? And did you stamp this on foiled paper or something? So very fun way to use some foil and use up those scraps, because this is what your piece looks like when you're done, and you can just keep using that until all of those little foil bits come off. Okay, let's get to cutting this up. We are going to use my paper trimmer, and as I mentioned earlier, I have the Happy Half Sheets Volume 2 that I am going to be turning into 5 different mini slim layouts. So if we turn this over and follow these cut measurements exactly, we will get to having all the pieces we need to build these. So this is in exact measurement. If you hold your Happy Half Sheet up over the top, you will see that that blue line around the outside is exactly the size as the sheet that you stamped. So right across the front, the top here, we're going to cut at 3 inches. So I'm going to take this piece. I'll show you guys how I like to make sure that I'm doing all of my cuts correctly by placing them back onto the reference sheet. So we have that 3-inch piece that I cut, and now I'm going to take this corner and line them up over the cutting line of my paper trimmer. And when you cut from corner to corner, I actually like to start in the middle of my paper because a lot of times you can crush that corner if you drag the blade directly into it. So I'm going to just push up and then pull down, and I have those 2 pieces finished, and then I'll set those on the reference sheet. Now the next cut we're going to make is this one here. So we've got 1 1/4 across this bottom area here. So I'm actually going to turn my paper this way and cut 1 1/4. And then the next one, another 1 1/4. And by setting each of them on there, you kind of know what you've already done. Now, this is the piece I have remaining, and that's the orientation of it. So we're going to start with 2 1/2 inches right here. 2 1/2. And then we've got 1 1/4. And then we've got 3/4 of an inch. And then the leftover piece should just fit right on there. So there we have it. Our whole Happy Half Sheet has been cut apart. So now we can take those pieces that we've cut, and these are all listed out for you. So the 1 means that this is for layout number 1. And so if you flip this back over, you can find number 1, which is right here, and this piece is for that layout. So you kind of flip between the front and the back to figure out how to lay these pieces out that you've cut. So I'm going to do the 2 cards, number 1 and 2, that use that diagonally cut piece. And because I wanted to add a little extra to zhuzh it up, we are going to cut a piece of Jujube cardstock at the exact same size as this one. So that would be 3 inches by 5 1/2 inches. And then I need to stamp that with my background stamp. So 3 1/2 by 5. Okay. Did I do that right? Why does that not? No, it's not right.
You need another piece?
I do. Did I look at that wrong? I did. I said 5, but it's actually 5 1/2. 3 by 5 1/2. I added the wrong side on there. So
there's a full sheet. Sorry.
what do they say? Measure measure twice, cut once. So 3 inches by 5.5 inches. Okay. And that will get you the same piece like this was cut out of. And then I am going to take and cut that diagonally in the same way, from top left to bottom right. And starting in the middle of my paper, holding that in place while we cut down the line.
We had a good question. Someone said, sorry if they missed this, but are the happy half sheets made only for mini slim?
Oh, that is a good question. No, there is actually, I think, only a couple of mini slim layouts in the happy half sheets. Most of them are A2. So I believe there are either 5 or 6 reference sheets in each pack, and a couple of the packs have a mini slim in them. And the reason why I chose to do mini slim is because that is the envelope size that we gave you with your free gift for this release. But there are lots of A2, more A2 than mini slim. So then we're going to take, and this is eventually how this is going to work out, but first we want to stamp that background. And I'm going to grab my Misty. All right. Let's put a little bit of tape down here. And I'm kind of going to tape this back together so it stays in the bottom while we stamp it with our Tweed background stamp. So this is the background stamp I used, Tweed. It is one of my favorites, especially for fall. Just love that cozy look of a tweed. All right. And this is going to be tone on tone, Jujube ink on Jujube cardstock. You can also stamp it first and then cut it apart. I just had my paper trimmer out, so I wanted to go ahead and cut it. A little bit of leftover ink on there. Okay, so that is now stamped with the background. And we'll pull that off. Okay, go ahead like this and like this. And I have my mini slim top fold Toffee card bases here. So we can go ahead and glue those pieces down. And some of you might find it easier actually if you meet these up on the back and use a little piece of teal tape or something along those lines, even just regular Scotch tape, and you adhere those down or adhere those together before you try to put them on your card base. That's going to help you get even spacing around the outside edges. So just one little piece of tape and then put your adhesive on the rest of it. And I like to make sure I get plenty of adhesive in those kind of corners so they don't bend up. All right. Whit, I need one more little piece of sugar cube for my sentiments. 2 sentiments. Thank you. Forgot that important part of our project. Okay. A little bit of teal tape, and then we'll go again with our tape runner.
Does that work?
That's great, thank you. Okay, so these are opposite. There's one with the pattern in the top right and one with the pattern in the top left. If you want to do them both the same, you just turn it around and it'll be fine. Either which way. Okay. Now we have our sentiments. This All About Autumn set is great because you get sentiments in it. And the font work on these is kind of big enough to hold the focal piece of your card. I have Thankful for You, Happy Fall, and Autumn Greetings in the set. So I'm going to use Happy Fall and Thankful for You. We are now in the tornado phase of the project where I cannot find anything. I did find that piece of cardstock that you brought me, so thank you. All right, Happy Fall and Thankful for You, and these are going to get stamped in Mocha ink. Oh, good. Claudia says she doesn't really have fall stamps, so she's excited to get these. All right, feel good about that. Then we can die cut these sentiments and finish putting these together. Did I hold you guys over time today? I don't think so. Have to stay after class. Can reuse some of those pieces of Scotch tape that we already put through the machine once. Okay, there's one and two. I'm not going to bring the die cut machine back into the frame. You guys know how to do that. So hold on just a second while I get these. Get these two cut out. So Happy Fall on this one and Thankful for You over here. I ended up putting one sentiment up high and one down low, mostly so that the sentiment is sitting primarily on the solid piece. Otherwise, if it's sitting mostly on the stamped piece, you kind of lose your sentiment. So that was my reasoning for putting it in those spots. And we'll go ahead and flip these over and put some foam squares on the back. Okay, a couple of these. I did have a scissors. I do have a scissors.
You've got this!
And then we can tuck those little leaves that were die cut. Tuck them kind of in and around the sentiment. So there's Thankful for You. And Happy Fall. Joan's asking if we're going to have foilets for our new Fall Sundry Sentiments. Great idea. We likely will not have those this year since we don't have them for the release. A lot of times we'll release the foilets at a later time. You can always keep that in your notes of your phone and suggest it as one of our Pick Your Pairings products. All right, so these, like I said, are going to get tucked in there. Because I already adhered these down, a lot of times what I do is cut off the parts that, you know, don't tuck very well so that I can get these under here where I want them. So I'm going to go like this and cut a little bit in there so that I can get that where I want it. Same for this guy. We can cut right like that. I mean, another option would be, if you don't want to do it this way and cut pieces off, is to arrange them before you adhere your sentiment down. Either way works. So there's our little happy fall, and then our thankful for you is going to go up this direction like this. And then we can pop those little glitter drops in there. I'll do just one for you. We'll do the thankful for you. Kind of use my card that I already did as a guide. And that makes it easy to decide where you want your little dots at if somebody's already thought about it for you. Okay. I usually try to vary a few bigger ones with some smaller ones. All right. So there we have it. Let me pull in my finished ones since they're all glued together. But I think this turned out really fun, and again, a great way to mass produce cards, be able to send out several for the fall season. Okay, let me come back to you and give you a little lay of the land for the rest of this week as we continue to recover from our fun time at Stamp Joy this past weekend. Susan will be in on Thursday to do a live, and she's going to be using the other collection from our release this week, the Harvest Hues. So you'll want to tune in for that. She's got a great project to share. And then, of course, Whitney and I will be around for our release reveal this coming weekend on Saturday. Look for that on the Fans of Tailored Expressions page. Usually goes up on Saturday morning, and you get the earliest peek at what's coming next Tuesday. And then I get to be live with you next Tuesday. I am so excited about what we're going to share next week. There is a Christmas element to it, and we are in gifting season, so I'm really excited about the products that we came up with to help you with your holiday gifting, and we are excited to share them with you. So yes, there are your opportunities to tune in live with us, and we will see you next week. All right, everybody, have a great day.